So picture this. It's a hot summer day. The only soda that you have in your house is in the trunk of your car. And being summer, your soda is hot. It's probably 80 to 90 degrees. But you're thirsty. You need caffeine. You're getting a caffeine withdrawal headache. What do? Other than run to the store. Well, you could risk putting this in the freezer and then forgetting about it and having it explode. Or is there something else you could do to speed it up? Well, it turns out that there is a supposed method that would work, and it so happens that I actually use it at work. Just because I've heard it from multiple people and it sounded right, but I've never actually tested it, and I just never second guessed it. Well, today at work, a coworker of mine who actually doesn't do that, he kind of makes fun of me for it and said, I don't think it makes a difference. He said he saw a thread on Reddit that reminded me of him, and he said it was basically someone doing like one of the Reddit life pro tips, and it said if you wrap a soda with a paper towel and then wet it with cool tap water and then put it in the refrigerator, that it'll cool quicker than if you just take a can and throw it straight in. And then he said, more importantly, he went to the comments section, and there was an overwhelming number of people who said that it won't work. And I went and checked out that thread. Well, it's kind of hard to search Reddit. It's so huge, and the search isn't perfect. But I found a couple that were somewhat recent. I think the newest one was 2 months ago, and he was right. There were a ton of people that were saying, "Oh, it's not going to work." But I think I'm going to call those people armchair engineers because I don't buy what they were saying. They were saying that by wrapping this with a paper towel that's wet, you're insulating it from being able to cool down. And here's what I'll do. I'm going to test them side by side. I'm going to hook it up to my data logger, and I'm going to log it until both of these are down below 40 degrees, which to me would be about the warmest I'd want to drink soda at, if I can help it. So a couple theories, a couple thoughts. The whole it's not going to work because it's going to insulate it from cooling off, I don't buy it. That's BS. If it were a dry paper towel, maybe like 10 layers of dry paper towel, yeah, I can totally see that. It traps pockets of air between each layer, and it'll act as an insulator. And air by itself is a pretty good insulator, so I could see that happening. But it's wet. Water is a good conductor of heat. So by wrapping this in a paper towel that's wet, I don't see that as insulating, and I see that as actually giving it a method of getting the heat out of there more quickly, helping wick the heat out. Granted, that's just a theory. Another thing, water obviously evaporates, and evaporation is a cooling process. But for evaporation to happen, usually the warmer it is, the more quickly it happens. And more importantly than that, the relative humidity. The drier it is, the more quickly you'll get evaporation, I believe. Well, good thing is, instead of refrigerator, anytime you usually do any kind of air cooling, you also, at the same time, end up drying the air. And so maybe that'll actually help it a little bit too. You'll have the water evaporating, sucking a little extra heat out of it. And then you'll have the water, which to me, I think would act as more of a conductor to help pull and draw the heat out of it. And then you have more surface area to dissipate the heat into the fridge. Because, there's no such thing as cold. There's just hot and less hot, and then heat goes from more hot to less hot. It's kind of like with electricity. You go from greater potential to lesser potential. So this would have more heat than everything else inside my fridge, and the heat gets out. Well, if you have a paper towel wrapped around it with water soaked in it, water is a good conductor of heat, so it wicks and sucks the heat out of there, especially because it's cool tap water. So as soon as that water touches it, it's going to be a lot cooler than the 80 to 85 degree or maybe even 90 degree soda that's in here, and it'll immediately start drawing the heat out. And then you have a bigger paper towel that's got a lot of texture to it, where you have more surface area for the air in the fridge that's moving around via either the fan that's in there, if there is one, if not through natural convection, and you would assume that it would cool better with that. That's my theory. I don't know. Now, I've never tested it, so now that it's going to be put to the test and I'm supporting this theory, I don't think the difference is going to be huge, maybe a couple of degrees probably. but you know, every little bit counts, right? But there's only one way to find out. So first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put this in the sink. I'm going to plug the sink. I'm going to put out some hot water, and I actually have my hot water heater set to pretty hot. So I'm going to get these things pretty warm. I think if I soak them in some hot water in the sink for maybe 15 minutes, I can get it above 80 degrees. These are really cool to the touch. They're in my pantry, and I have a pretty good size like walk-in pantry. And for some reason, I don't think there's a vent in there, but it's usually pretty chilly in there, even in the summer. So these cans feel kind of cool, and obviously if they're already kind of close to if they're a cooler temperature, then there isn't going to be as much change. There's not going to be as much data to log, and it's going to be maybe a little harder to tell what's going on. So I'm going to artificially warm them up to at least 80 degrees. And then we'll have a bigger range from start to finish, so then we have more data to look at. So I'm going to heat them up first, and then I think either I'm going to crack these open and slip the thermocouple in there, because I don't want to open it all the way. I don't want that to be another variable I'm throwing into the mix, because obviously if you're doing an experiment... It is starting to rain. Obviously, if you're doing an experiment, you want as few variables as possible, preferably just one variable, and everything else is static. So, you know, actually, now I think about it, I might take a small drill bit and just drill a hole in the center, and then it doesn't have to be big, because all it has to do is fit a K-type probe tip through it. And then, since this is solid core, I can bend it at a 90-degree angle and then get it to kind of hover in the middle, because if it touches the side of the can, that will for sure throw the reading off. But just to be completely sure, after I pull these out of the fridge, I'm going to open them completely and then manually stick one single probe from one single channel into both to get a final like temperature reading. So I guess there's nothing else left to do except to go give this a shot. And by the way, I hate Fresca. I don't think it tastes good at all. Maybe it used to, but now it tastes like bathroom cleaner chemicals. But we had some prior house guests that wanted it, and so we have leftover in the pantry, and that's what I decided to sacrifice for today's experiment. I'm going to go ahead and do everything I just said. I'm going to warm it up, drill a hole, put the probes in it, wrap one of them in a paper towel and wet it. The other one is going to go in there dry, just like you normally would put soda in a fridge. I don't want water dripping all over my fridge, so I'm going to put this in a little disposable paper bowl. And actually, I'm going to put both of them in it, because like I said, fewer variables, the better. Because if this is in a bowl and this one isn't, then this will have metal-to-metal contact with the grate that it's sitting on. So to keep everything as even and fair as possible, I'm going to put both of them in a bowl. Obviously, this one will have paper towel and water around it. And then I'll shut the fridge door, start my data logger. I think I have it set to 1 data acquisition per second, and it'll log into a spreadsheet on the SD card that's built into it. If you aren't familiar with that X-Tech logger that I've done a review of a few videos ago, this will be a really good use for it. And then we'll go to the computer, pull up the spreadsheet, and review the data, do some graphing, and try to figure out how long it took each can to get to a drinkable temperature, which I think would be safe to say 40 degrees, because if we had our fridge set colder, I think it'd be fair to go to like 35 degrees, but I think in this case 40 is a good number to get to. Plus, in this case, if you're wrapping this with something, you're doing it because you're trying to get it colder more quickly, and that means you're wanting to drink it as quickly as possible, and so you're not going to wait forever for it to get all the way down to the optimal temperature of 35 or whatever. You know, I think 40 is fair, but I really have no idea what's going to happen. I do think that it'll help a little bit at least, but maybe I'm wrong. Everyone in the Reddit threads seem to disagree with me, and they think that it'll actually keep it from cooling off as quickly because... Oh, that's another thing I didn't mention too. Sorry, another theory and another thing people said is that, which I kind of agree with this, I could see it a little bit. They were saying that, you know, with just this soda can right here, all I have is the aluminum can, or aluminium if you're across the pond, and then the liquid inside of it. That is the total amount of, you know, thermal mass that I have to suck the heat out of. Now, if you wrap this with a paper towel and then soak it with water, you're actually adding more thermal mass that your refrigerator is having to cool down. But like I said, I think the water will actually wick the heat out of it because this will be warmer than the cool tap water I'm putting on it. So I think that's bogus. but I'd like to be wrong. I like surprising results, so yeah, I'm gonna go do this, and then we'll head to the computer and take a look. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to analyze some data. So first things first, let's get rid of the unit columns because we already know it's in Fahrenheit. And then channel 3 and 4 were not used, so we'll get rid of those. We don't need the date because everything was within 1 day. We don't need the primary key. And there we go. Now, this didn't start at the same temperature because, well, here, let me put some labels on this really quickly. Okay, so these didn't start at the exact same temperature because, well, they did start at the same temperature when I had drilled the hole. Now, it took me a second to wrap this one with a paper towel and then wet it without getting water in the top of the can where the hole is. And just in the short amount of time, it couldn't have been more than 30 seconds to a minute that I had done that. It had already dropped almost 3 degrees. So that's actually kind of a big deal. There we go. So, just in case you're wondering why, you know, you could say, hey, that's kind of cheating. One started cooler than the other. No, they actually technically started at the exact same temperature. It's just before I could even get the probes into the can and get the data logger started, this had already dropped almost 3 degrees due to the fact that, you know, it's a warm can and I have cool tap water running on it. Well, it wasn't running on it, but, you know, you got cool water on the outside wicking heat out of it, which is exactly why I thought that it would actually help, which is contrary to what most of the armchair engineers on Reddit seem to think. So, I guess what we'll do first is I'm going to delete to, actually here, 88.6. I'm going to start both these at 88.6. That way they're lined up so you can see them starting at the exact same temperature. So wait, what was it? 88. Or sorry, I need to get this one down then. 85.2. Sorry, it takes a second to massage the data, if you know what I mean, to get everything. So shift control end. Okay, so now they both start at the same temperature. This is a measure of the change, not the start and finish. So this will actually give us better data to look at. So now we'll just go to the end. I forgot. They're not going to end at the same spot now, so there we go. So now we have our data selected. We will insert a graph or chart. Yeah, it's something trending over time. I think line graph's still going to be the best bet. Is there a way to... Let's go to the very top. I'm always tired of not being able to find my graph after I insert it because it's 10,000 lines down or whatever. Okay, here we go. And then we're going to massage this just a tiny bit more. So we're starting at 85. So set that to 80, we'll do 87. And then the minimum. I like to do this because then we're using the entire range and then you can see more detail in the actual trend and in the changes. So minimum looks like we didn't get below about 37 or so. Yeah, that looks perfect. You just want a tiny bit of space because you don't want to ram it into the very top and the bottom. So usually add a couple digits to the beginning and the end. Not digits, but a couple accounts, I guess. And then we'll set the units. Let's do 2-degree increments. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so obviously the blue one is our control. That is just a regular dry soda can or beer can put straight into the fridge. And they both started right at 85 degrees. And then as you can see, the control, the red one is the paper towel and water one. And the control obviously looks pretty linear. The control one, it just took us time compared to our test one. I mean, just look at this thing. It just drops off like crazy. So, actually, what we'll do, we'll change our, well, no. Okay, so let's assume we want to get it down to 40. 40 is nice and chilly. So we just about hit 40 right here at 11:04. And if we started at 8, so it's like 3 hours. Versus this one, which never even got down to that temperature. So due to that, instead of trying to get to 40, who knows how long it would have taken for that to get to 40. Let's try something else here. How about we go from what I would consider room temperature in the United States, like average room temperature, I would say. Not scientific room temperature, but like average house temperature in the summer with air conditioning in the United States, because most homes in the U.S. have air conditioning. Most people use it. I would say it's between 70 and 75. So we'll start with 75. And then since the control never got down to a really, really low temperature, to give it the benefit of the doubt, let's stop at 50 degrees. 50 to me would probably be at the point where it's cool enough to drink. You wouldn't want it any warmer than that, but I think if it's a hot 90 or 100 degree day, I think 50 degrees is a pretty decent temperature to get it to. It's good. It's going to be nice and chilly to you. So I think 50 would be a good number to shoot for. So let's select the data again, but this time we're going to go down until they both hit. Actually, first we need to start. Oh, I'm going to have to adjust them again. That's fine. So, and really the time we kind of ignore because obviously I'm shifting the data in both columns. So it's really just, if we use the time, it's just to tell the difference between one point or another. It's not the actual time that these actually took place. I'm doing this just so we start at the same temperature. It gives us a better idea of what we're looking at. So. Now we'll go down until we see 75, do the same thing. Of course, it did that, okay. There we go, and now we're going to stop when it gets down to 50. Both of them get to 50, so. Paper towel already hit 50. Now we have to wait for the control, which obviously took a lot longer. Man, next time I need to really do something that's a bit longer than just 1 second for data acquisition. It's too much data. Maybe do like 2 seconds or 5 seconds. There we go. So there we go. It hit 50. So then at this point they have both hit 50, and then scroll all the way to the top so we know where to find our graph. We'll do a line graph. Start it there. We're going to have to massage the data a little bit more, but that is a part of science. Interpreting and adjusting your data. Okay, first thing, we'll adjust the axes. Maximum, we're starting at 75, so we'll just set this to 76. And then if we're stopping at 50, we'll just set this to 49. Major units, we'll just do 2-degree increments, I think. Actually, let's do 5-degree increments. Not a big deal. Oh, we need to go lower. I forgot that the other one gets pretty low. Let's try 40 and see what happens. Yeah, that's just about right. So what you want to do is, like I already said earlier, is just get them as close as to the top and the bottom as possible. So that way you can tell a lot more. If you spread this out and you don't actually format this, they're not going to look as curved, and it's going to be a lot harder to read the data. So anyways, this right end is where our control hit 50 degrees, which is what I would consider a good drinkable temperature without having to wait too long. They both started at 75, which is what I would consider the average American home's room temperature. So, you know, if you had a soda sitting in your pantry, that's probably roughly what it would be, the temperature, or what the temperature would be. And so, let's see, we started basically at 8, and then the one with the paper towel hit 50 degrees at about 9:23, so about an hour, a little over an hour, like hour and 10, hour and 15 minutes. And then if you look at this one, it went from 8 to 11, so basically the difference is more than double. It's actually about triple. So, I mean, if you look though, I mean, it hits 50 degrees on this end, so this hit, the paper towel and water one hit 50 degrees right here, which is not even to the middle mark yet. And actually, sorry, it was not triple, it's double. And the control didn't hit it until over here, so it's the one with a paper towel wrapped around it. If they both start from 75 degrees, will hit 50 degrees twice as fast, more than twice as fast. So I don't know what all these people are smoking when they were getting in the comments saying, oh, blah, 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 thermodynamics, you're just going to insulate it. I don't understand it. That's why you shouldn't believe anything you read on the internet. We just did a simple experiment. I took 2 cans, I heated them up to the exact same temperature. I used a precision K-type thermocouple temperature logger, and that's a $350 unit. It's not like I'm using some cheap crap, or, you know, like some, like, hobbled together Arduino temperature reader. Like, this is, you know, a professional unit. We logged it 1 data point per second. I made sure the probe didn't touch the sides of the can. I mean, I did everything I could to get this as accurate as possible. The only variable being one is wrapped with a paper towel with room temperature, well, not room temperature water, but cold faucet water. And it's a summer, so it's not, the cold faucet water is not going to be nearly as cold as what it would be in a cold winter day. So, I mean, this is staggering. It's a huge result. So, absolutely confirmed. So, and you know what the crazy thing is? I did a quick Google search, and one of the first results I found, someone took an Arduino, they hooked some thermocouples up, and they did the same test. They got the opposite result. I don't understand how that would even happen. Maybe he mixed the channels up in the code? I don't know, because before I even got the damn things into the fridge, the one with the paper towel around it, the water that I had put on there was already sucking the heat out of the can, and it was almost 3 degrees cooler, so I don't know. But anyways, if you have a can of soda or beer or an energy drink and you want to get it cool as quickly as you can, wrap it with a paper towel and soak it with water. But if you want to get it there quicker, you could use a fire extinguisher, or you could use ice water with salt in it. Those would work even much more quickly. Or you could do the paper towel method but put it in the freezer instead of the fridge. Just make sure you set an alarm for 10 or 15 minutes, because if you don't, you're going to have a mess. Yeah, I'll probably post the raw spreadsheet. Oh, actually, where will I host it? I don't know. I don't feel comfortable hosting stuff on my own. I just don't trust people out there. I don't know. I might post these. If someone requests it, I'll email it to you, but I don't. I'll make sure I save these so I have them on hand if someone wants this to play around with the data. But anyways, I hope everyone found this to be entertaining. It's funny when you see something online and everyone in the comments claims to be an engineer and know what they're talking about, and they'll say, oh, that doesn't work, and they haven't even tried it. How are you going to claim that it's not going to work without trying it? You could speculate and say, well, if I were to guess, it wouldn't. But no, these people are claiming that they're like, oh, no, there's no way it'll work. You're going to just basically insulate it from being able to cool off more quickly. It's like, I don't think so. I got data right here that shows that to hit 75 to 50 degrees, it's more than twice as fast using the paper towel and water method. So that's it. If you liked the video, I never say thumbs up or subscribe and whatnot because I don't know. That's the point of the channel is not to make money. It's to get back to the community, and I like making videos and I like teaching, and I like doing this kind of stuff. It's a hobby. That's why I have a full-time job, and this is just something I do when I have free time. But I realize I don't really have a good barometer as for how people are receiving my videos. Are you liking them? Are you not liking them? So what I recommend is hit one of the two buttons. Hit the thumbs up if you found it useful or you liked the video. Hit thumbs down if you don't. That way, if I see a bunch of thumbs downs on a video, then I'll know you didn't like it, and then I'll know what not to make videos of in the future. So if you could do that, that'd be cool. If not, I understand. That's cool too. I don't really care. Comments work too. Any feedback is super helpful. So sometimes I make these videos and think, is anyone actually going to watch this? Will it be helpful to anyone? Am I going to bore them to death? Is it too long? Answer to most of those things is usually yes. Anyways, I've rambled on enough. I will see you in the next video. Bye.